what you're trying to do, or what the router does, is that um, you find a backup route. Okay, find a backup route for the router. Okay, so let's assume that we have another route here. Maybe we have another additional network here. Okay, so this is another route. So we have two routes to the same destination. Okay, two routes to the same destination. So let's say, for instance, we have this route here. Let's say the IP address there is 209.165.200.0, for instance, side 30. Now let's just take an example of that. Okay, that's the network, and that's the network that we configured right there. 30.0 network, and then maybe, for instance, this router's interface right here is going to take 200.1, and this one will take 200.2. Now what you want is that one of these links must be the primary link, because if you do not do that, we have to understand one thing called the administrative distance and metrics. So we discussed about those ones before. Okay, we have 80. Okay, 80 stands for administrative distance, and we have what we call metric, that is the how far, okay, the measurable distance, and this one is the trustworthiness of the route. Now if two routes have the same administrative distance and the same distance, or what we can call it the same metric or cost, to the same destination, the router would load share. In that case, the router would say, I'm going to take 50% of my route through this interface, this side, and I'm going to take 50% of my route through this other side. So that is what the routers are going to do. So in order for you to avoid that, you can say, okay, I want only this link to be utilized as a primary link. At any time it goes down, this other router should be floating, waiting. As soon as this one goes down, this other route will come up. So it's just like you're creating redundancy in between your network routers. So you're telling your router that if you lose connection through this way, now reroute your traffic using that other way. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to Westfield. Okay, my primary route is going towards QCell and then go all the way to Westfield. But I also have a route that if I do not want this, I can go through Latakunda, Germany, and I go towards Serekunda, then cut through how to call it, through Amsterdam. What is the name of that junction? I cannot remember. Bad test, then I go to Westfield. So exactly that's what you're gonna do, because you have a route, and there is another route that is also waiting in the pipeline. That if this one goes down, I should pop up. So that's what the floating static route here does. It pops up when it's needed. Okay, so it waits there. So we're gonna do practical on static route, and we're gonna do practical on default static route and floating static route. So I don't think we have any other thing to discuss here more. So but we'll just go. The most other important things here is the specifying the next hubs and exit interfaces. So I explained this one in my previous video, and I told you guys why you should go with exit interface, and why you should also go with next hub, what are the pros and cons there. So I explained those things to you guys, so I hope you guys got those things right. Okay, so we continue. So we're gonna just make sure that we do some troubleshooting. So this other video should be a really fast one. So a router learns about remote networks in two ways. Like I said, it's either the router learns the network manually, that is the administrator statically assigning the route to access those remote networks, or the routers can be configured so they themselves can negotiate and then tell each other's routes to each other. That's the dynamic routing information. And what are some of the difference between a static route and dynamic route, and why should one use static route over dynamic routing? Dynamic routing protocols, they're generally dependent on the network size, but in static route, the problem is that when you are configuring, it becomes a lot more complicated if the network devices increase. Let's say, for instance, you have 50 routers or so there with static route, or maybe even 2 routers, but you have more networks, maybe 50 or 70 networks. If you're not careful, you have a problem. And topology changes with dynamic routing protocols. The advantage there is dynamic routing protocols will immediately adapt to topology changes, but with static routing, the administrator must tell the router where to find the networks. Okay, that's what the router would have to do. And when to use static route, the most important thing is that there are three uses of static route: in a small network or in a stop network. A stop network is a network that has only one way. Let's say, for instance, going into Banjul, you have only one way. So that is a stop network. Okay, a network that has only one entry